Hello, welcome to TFTV Music Studio Tours with the lovely Timothy William in his natural environment home studio.
Oh yeah.
How are you,
nice
mate?
Nice to see you, bro.
Thanks. It's been a while. Tell us your story, man. As a
how
musician, and I mean, I know
Yeah.
you as the keyboard player in New Zealand.
That's very nice of you to
that's
say.
not an understatement. You've played with a lot of artists, and you're really good at what you do. So that's how I know you, from the jazz background, the jazz gigs.
Yeah, I think that's in reflection how I kind of started this. We referred to it as journey. I cut my chops as a teenager, as a jazz musician on the scene.
Yeah.
Got my backside handed to me a number of times from much better musicians than I am, but that's how we all cut it, particularly in the jazz scene.
Yep.
After sort of cutting my chops on that, I kind of looked. I explored some different genres, and I'm kind of, as I said earlier, found myself I consider myself rather a soul musician rather than I do a jazz musician.
Yeah, right. Because I'm hearing some of the new records that you've been producing, the artists, it is transitioning to the soul with the choirs.
So, yep, that was...
You're loving that sort of vibe?
Choirs are notoriously difficult to tour with because you got to take a bus. But if I
can imagine fitting that all in the back of the bus.
And you got to feed them and everything. That would be that's my buzz.
Yeah, right.
But more recently, I've been doing things like hip hop. I work with a Maori, like the preeminent Maori hip hop band called Damn Native for a number of years.
Yep. Right.
Currently working with the likes of King Kapisi,
nice.
And co-producing an artist called Hazardous, or Haz.
Mm-hmm.
His debut album at the moment, and Haz I think he was the lead vocalist of a band called Butakata Sound Machine, travelled the world a couple of times with them, and then also is kind of 2IC to an artist called Che Fu, which everyone
knows who Che Fu is.
Everyone who's anyone.
If you don't,
knows
you
Che.
need to travel back to the 90s, but
and then some.
He's a big deal in New Zealand.
Cool I consider him and Caps
and King Kapisi as well
to being kind of the groundbreaking hip hop artists, and similarly Damn Native, who is a very staunchly Māori hip hop artist and band, and I somehow found myself fitting into those guys, which all dwarf me, by the way. They're huge. They're huge boys. So
I mean, how did you come across sort of those sort of connections? Did they see you playing gigs?
Much
is
like
it just your friends of friends?
Pretty much, yeah. Much like that organic-ness that we have in the local New Zealand music scene. Yeah. I don't know quite how tentative my links there, but
no, it just happened.
They do. You get a call or an email out of nowhere, and just like how I met you 10 years ago, I can't even remember, but
yes,
you
that's
throw,
taken a while.
If you
take me back to 10 years, so I can't even recall that.
I don't want to even think.
I remember though, we played some cool gigs, and you had lots of cool jazz musicians, and I was the DJ, I believe.
I think you were DJing for a bit. Yep.
The band I recall was called No Photon.
That's going back a long time.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's awesome, and that had some really magical musicians.
That was one of these kind of jazz crossover projects that I was involved with a number of years ago. But so I think you meet a lot of those artists and fellow musicians just quite organically through the scene. I don't think there's a yellow pages for DJs or for trumpet players or piano players for that matter.
I recall you're as well as a musician, you were organising all sorts of cool jam nights and NPC jam nights, and
I think
that was cool.
Well, I think we have to, as musicians, we have to be quite proactive essentially you're self-employed, but you have to be pretty proactive, and you have to create
the scene.
You create the scene. You're part of the scene. You have to create the scene.
Yep.
It's not like many of the other whilst we consider the music industry to be a creative outlet and this lovely thing, it is also an industry and a business and that kind of thing. And if we sometimes we're forced to, and I don't think as musicians many of us are good at it, but forced to consider it to be a business and an industry. And if we take the learnings or the framework that other industries have and incorporate that into our philosophy, we can be quite a lot more proactive, and we can be a lot more I suppose useful, and not to be overly Tony Robbins or anything like that, but there is,
I get what you're saying. It's sort of having that business thing sort of has the longevity of what you're doing as well, and solidifies you.
And I think not to name drop King Kapisi again, but he would be one of the most, one of the guys that I look up to in the scene. He's what we all should be doing a lot more of, and he, when you go around to his place, his house is basically a big production house. He's got video production, he's got his screen printing, he's got his
T-shirts.
emceeing, he's got his everything. And I did a session with him yesterday, and he's getting calls from the other side of the world about doing a tour here, and he's getting this.
Nice.
It was working with something to do with the council thing, and he's doing a production company, a PR company. He's just he's one of those dudes that has got his finger in so many pies, and he generates. He's where he is
the
today,
different streams of revenue because he's just
exactly everywhere. and he's proactive. He's
no, that's cool.
I think one gig I went to see him, it was an album release party, and he did everything from something like he produced the video clip, he MC'd, he MD'd, he at one point I walked into the place he was working in, and he was commentating a PlayStation game. I mean, who else cool. out there does that?
No,
so I think we should. I think we all could be a little bit more productive in that respect.
I mean, this is why I respect you as a musician as well. I mean, I've known you for almost a decade, but you too. I mean, you're very sort of hands-on. You've got. I believe you're doing the teaching, the gigs, session keyboardists. I mean, everyone is knocking on your door. In terms of keys,
that's very
especially
nice,
jazz. I mean, I know a lot of musicians, and I see you in I've seen you in so many music videos and Good Morning TV. You're always on there.
There was a few years there where I felt like I was getting up far too early, far too often to do that show.
Let me talk about Good Morning for a moment, because I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of that. Do you have to wake up at 5 a.m, or
something horrible like that? Doesn't. And a couple of the acts I've done, not myself, but the artist didn't wake up. He just stayed up and came in the next morning looking a little worse for wear. That show, despite, and I'll be the first to admit, it's probably content-wise wasn't the most gripping show for 3 hours on a weekday morning, but since that wrapped up filming last year, a lot of people in the industry have said that was the best New Zealand music television show out there, right. Because they were,
it had a good reach.
They did. They were very supportive of local artists. Sometimes the acts were a little bit hit and miss, but whenever I had a new artist or act come through, or I had a couple of overseas artists that toured, I could give them a call, and they were very helpful in promoting whatever was going on, and they might be on your bed.
If you can't see, let's get the studio dog. There is a very I believe is a famous dog.
He's got a little bit of
he's got his own Instagram before you.
Of his own, yeah.
What's his name?
This is Opie. Yeah,
Opie. Hello,
he's
Opie.
Generally part of the furniture in the studio here.
Yeah. What breed is he, by the way?
He is what they call a retridoodle, so part golden retriever and part poodle.
Huh. It's very well behaved.
He's a pretty good dog.
You don't bark at all though, so he makes a very good studio.
He is
studio dog, and also absorbing.
He does. I think acoustically, he probably you just put him in the right place to gauge where you want your bass frequencies.
Tell us a little bit about your sort of education background with this, because you seem to know your way around. Was it through just playing through stuff?
Yeah, I was one of those students who started piano lessons when I was very young and went through the grades. I think I I can't even remember what it's called now, but ended up with a associate diploma of jazz performance or something like that. It's a couple of steps above grade 8, which is generally where most people wrap up. And then I spent a year down at the Conservatorium of Music in Wellington. I did a couple of other sort of, I think they call them diplomas when I was still at high school, to do with jazz and being a band member or band leader in a jazz ensemble. Okay. How I got to this part is I obviously by that stage you know your way around a piano, and
why not find a way to record it? Right?
Well that's I remember when I was at high school I was the go-to guy to get the recording studio at school working, so I learnt my way around that pretty quickly, and then this as I mentioned I find Logic Pro quite an intuitive program to use, so it's not a lot of that stuff is you should really learn the basics, and then a lot of it you get to know as well. I would also say, and I implore all my teenage students who are wanting to go on to study music at places like SAE and Mains and that sort of thing, to a lot of those programs that music recording programs still utilize a lot of basic or simple theoretical understanding of music. Things like when it comes to quantizing and key signatures and transposition and all that kind of thing, they're referencing music terminology and theory that has been around for the last 400 or 500 years. So the in my experience, the engineers that I've most enjoyed working with have had a background in performance as well, so they know a little bit about, they know the difference between a major and a minor chord, or what a wrong note is. I'm quite passionate about, we often, when we're surrounded by all this great technology, we often think that that defines the quality of our work. And the thing that I try and encourage most people to think about is that the quality of music is actually going to depend on how much time you spend on your craft, whether it's playing a guitar or writing music or
and the songwriting and
songwriting qualities there. Whilst for example, Daft Punk, they are fantastic producers in their own right, but they are great songwriters as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So
get the foundations correct.
The last thing you want to be is what we call all the gear, no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And I find myself,
it's not going to write the song for you.
It's not.
You still need to write the song.
If you want to write a good song, or you want to record something great, practice your instrument, practice your craft. Leave all the fancy lights alone. Practice your instrument if you're going to record an album, rather than stress too much about all this stuff behind us.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of all the stuff behind us, let's get through it, because there's a lot to check out. So let's start off with this space here. So you're running a Mac.
Yes, so I use Mac for all my creative stuff. This is nothing flash. It's a couple-year-old laptop with a bit of extra RAM and a bit faster
MacBook Pro. How much RAM?
8 gig RAM.
8 gig RAM.
Just a 500 gig hard drive. No, pretty run of the mill really.
Yeah.
On here, I think like most of us, at least in my case, I cut my chops on Pro Tools.
Right.
But we've got Logic Pro as my sort of software of choice. So Logic Pro's I really enjoy, because it's a really good combination of ability to record live sounds. Sort of where 10 years ago Logic, Pro Tools I should say, used to dominate the market. There was when I started recording, there was Pro Tools, which was designed purely to record live sounds, so your studios generally had that, and then you had your Logic Pros and I think Reason and a couple other things that you dominated the home production market, if you will, because they had all the MIDI implementation and all that kind of thing. And as the two programs from the sort of opposite ends of the spectrum moved closer together, I found Logic Pro to be my go-to.
It's got some cool modules. synthesizers.
Great,
all sorts.
yeah, some really good stuff.
Good effects.
Yep,
it's really a go-to for everything. So I do agree with you. It's powerful,
and it's powerful, and it's relatively easy to use. I've not spent heaps of time around Pro Tools, but I've found that my workflow is a whole lot more intuitive, if you will.
Yeah, no, awesome.
So nothing hugely flash when it comes to the hardware, and the Lappy. Logic Pro is my go-to.
So this, I see a few cables going in here. Obviously, going to your Sony Bravia monitor. Yep. MIDI-wise, is it connected somehow?
Yes. So we kind of most things now have a MIDI implementation. So if we cast our eye down at the bottom here, we're running the 002. I'll come back to that shortly, but that's got numerous MIDI in and outs. You've got the
Focusrite.
Yep, Focusrite.
Channel strip.
Yep, quite tidy little preamp and condenser and that sort of thing. And then under that you've got the to be honest, that not often used, that one, but you've got an 8 and 8 out. I'll come back to that one anyway.
Interface.
Yes, but all of those have got your, speaking of MIDI, you've got your MIDI in and out, and then things like your Machina and your MPC Renaissance have also got. So you've got full MIDI implementation. The hardest part is actually working out which one is selected, so you can deselect the other ones, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
no, I think what we'll do is we'll pan around the room. There's lots to cover, so let's go on to it.
Excellent.
Yeah, sweet. So Tim, tell us about your piano.
Look, it's just a nice, tidy little studio upright. I as we talked about, I do a lot of teaching on it. It's Weinbach, I think, is a German brand. Nice and tidy. It's almost, I could do with a smaller piano in a sort of compact room like this, but I've done a couple of recording sessions on it. Nice and tidy. It definitely needs a tune at the moment, but I'll wait for the weather to stabilise a little bit.
Haven't heard of the brand actually. It's
Weinbach. It might be one of those. Don't quote me, but quite often with piano brands, they rebrand a well-known brand as under a different name for a different marketplace, so it doesn't detract. It's kind of like the equivalent of what they call the clear skins on wine bottles. You know, they don't want to be competing at the bottom end of the market if it's a really nice piano. Weinbach might be one of those brands. The New Zealand piano market is actually generally has a lot more of the Asian brand names, your Kawais, your Yamahas, and that kind of thing, rather than the traditional European brands like your Bosendorfers and that sort of thing. And I think that's because the having played on lots of different pianos for so long, the Asian pianos tend to be quite a bit brighter, like your Kawais, your K-Kawais particularly, and your Yamahas are bright pianos that appeal to modern musicians like myself, jazz musicians and rock musicians, rather than your traditional classical, very very rigid sounds. This one here is still got its dampener pedal on, but
nice. I feel like I'm in a
pick your words carefully.
American. I'm picking my words carefully, but no, that sounds beautiful.
It's a great teaching piano, and I think in an ideal world everyone would have nice grand pianos, but it's nice to have an acoustic instrument to practice on and to write on.
Do you mic this if you're recording it, or
I can do, and my philosophy with I've tried a couple of things. because this is sitting on a wall, it's quite often, if I was to mic an upright piano, you find the sound hole at the other end of the piano, and you can stick a simple 57 or something in the back there. Two simple overheads with a little bit of stereo panning works fine on a piano. Depends how close mic you want to do it. If you really want to get all sexy, you take your top off and mic
and it looks better.
And it does. It looks. The only thing I do find though that for anyone who's interested is that you get a lot more mechanical sounds.
Okay.
Out of if you close mic with the lid off, you get a lot more of the. You got to remember with
the hammer.
The hammer sounds. Depending on the condition of the piano, you might get other noises, because on a conventional upright piano, you're looking at about 10,000 moving parts. They've been around for a long time, but they're actually a marvel of engineering.
Yes.
I'll be the first to say that tuning or maintaining a piano is a hell of a lot harder than playing a piano.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a lot of mechanical sounds if you close mic it. Sometimes it's just easy to just take the lid off and put a couple of nice same kind of mics that you'd have on overheads or something, drum overheads or something like that. So.
Oh, cool.
If you do feel compelled, the other option is if you really want to. I've had a bit of joy in taking the front panel off here.
Yes.
Because what that does is it exposes your bass strings. Generally on an upright piano, you got to think of your bass strings are your long strings, right? Mm-hmm. And so they generally look. If we put in this perspective, your bass strings are generally running from that corner up this way, and your upper high frequency strings are shorter, and there's more of them. So right down the bottom of the piano here, you've got one big thick string, and up here you've got three really small strings. So if you stick a mic in, particularly down the bottom end, you're gonna capture those really nice bottom end frequencies. And the only other thing that it's worth keeping in mind, because it can be really lazy in a sense, or simple, I should say, to simply DI a good sounding electric piano, or you can use your plugins on whatever your software you're using. There's this concept called overtones, and that is to suggest that if you play that note and that note at the same time, it's not going to sound the same as if you were to play them at the same time.
You're right.
So if you recorded that one and played them back simultaneanely, it's not going to sound the same as doing it at the same time. No. The reason being is that here's a little test, right? Just I'm going to get you to hold down an octave of notes down the bottom there. Just hold. Cool. Just literally hold down all the notes of C major scale between that note and that note, like this. Yeah, just cool. And do it without sounding them. So just hold them down like that. So what you're doing is that inside the piano, the hammers are coming off the strings, right? Yeah. And it's exposing them. Because what happens is when we strike a note on the piano, what happens is the hammer hits the string and the string vibrates. Yeah. Look at this. Exactly what you did there. And then when we lift it off, the dampener goes back and kills the note. Right. Yep. That's the fundamentals of the piano, right? But if we cheat a little bit, what I'm going to get you to do is I'm going to get you to hold down those notes there, good, and do it without the hammers hitting. So you're literally just holding them down, right? And what you're doing is you're exposing 7 notes at about this place on the piano, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to play any manner of notes up here. Yeah. And by doing that, because sound is essentially vibrations, it's going to vibrate these otherwise exposed strings.
That's cool.
Right?
That's interesting.
And so what I'll do is I'll play some notes, and then if I don't know how successful the miking will be in here, but if you listen really carefully, you're just going to hear these vibrations, and that's what we call, that's one way of thinking about overtones. So if you even bang some, make some vibrations in here. Yeah. Have that listen.
Yeah, you can hear
that
ringing.
Good. Just for better, I think if we just hold down C. Yep. I'll play. You lift up. I'll play C. That's middle C. Yep. If I just hold that down and listen.
It's the sustain you can still hear.
Yeah. And that's because for every note I play, you got to think of it like a big box. If the sound's bouncing around in the box, right? Yeah. That's the concept of what I call moving air. So the sound is all bouncing around, and it's all interacting with other frequencies. There's a whole bunch of vibrations and frequencies bouncing in. They all interact with each other, and that's one way of thinking about overtones.
It's almost interesting, like from an engineer's point of view. It's sort of like when you're tuning a room, you put mufflers and things like that. same sort of concept. It's
Tuning,
inside the
yeah, and this is like a small version of a room.
Yeah.
It's got four walls, and it's got a roof, and it's got a bunch of stuff in there. But the sound bounces around and sound interacts with each other.
So do you use that as a particular sort of style in your
it's just, I think it's just not necessarily. It's just something for us audio engineers to consider when we come to record instruments.
Recording it is.
It is, and I'll be the first to admit that digital pianos are getting really good. Like there's some that I would almost prefer over playing a live instrument, for example. But what I don't think they'll ever quite get is the fact that while we sample sometimes 100 individual notes recordings to get one note on a digital piano, we can't
sample that harmonics.
We can't sample the overtones, the harmonics, and all that kind of thing. So there is something to be said about still recording a piano, even if it may not be the best in the world.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I really like that.
Cool.
Now we're going into the digital era, the future.
We're going to the future and certainly referencing the past, I'll do it.
As well. So tell us about this stuff. The Moog MS2000. This is a big fan of.
This is Korg's version of like what you say, the Moogs, right? So Korg, I think about 30 years ago, released an instrument called the MS10, and this was released in about 2000. It references the old stuff. So
I've actually got a micro Korg. Is that based on the MS2000?
Yes, hold that thought, because I got a micro Korg too. So we'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah.
But yes, the sound engines are exactly the same. So this was one of the first synths I got, and it's actually a really good synth to learn about synthesis, because you got this is what we call analog modeling. Yeah. So it's the sound is produced from a microchip rather than from a circuit board like your original analog synthesizers. Yeah. However, you still have the ability to manipulate the sounds to create the palette that you want. Again, it can be a little bit easier being able to do things like save the sounds. I used to gig a lot with the Roland Juno series of instruments, which were from something like the late 70s, and that was fantastic, except you had to recreate the sound on stage every time you played live.
No presets.
No presets. The Juno 6, which was one of my first analog synths. And that became quite problematic.
Yeah.
If you've got a lot of gear that you got to bring around, it's nice to be able to just dial something up and know that it's going to sound exactly the same as when you left the studio.
Right.
This is great. It's set to a couple of bass synths. This used to be my primary bass synthesizer when you got classic references to the Moog sounds.
I like that.
And to be honest, this is my main go-to bass synth.
Watch out, Moog.
Moog certainly knows what they're doing, but they it's kind of I consider a bit of a tip to the hat.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of Korg. So this is great. It's all very hands-on. Like you say, you can get into the presets, but
you can save it all. But really, I mean, we could do a couple of web series talking about just this thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But this is and even now it's quite inexpensive. There's a lot of them in the marketplace, and if we would lift it up, you could literally lift it in one hand. It's not it looks impressive, and when you open it up, it's like most things. It's a little microchip.
Now, is this a 16-step sequencer, or is it? Yep. Okay.
Yep.
So do you use that?
No.
Okay.
There's so many avenues of what you can do on that. I kind of pigeonhole it. I use it for what I want it for, and use other bits of gear for your sequencing. Yeah, no, definitely. And that's what I just love about gear is, like you say, it's sort of every musician uses it differently. Mm-hmm. So absolutely, that's cool. So, but for you, bass is what you bass
mainly
is what
use it for.
I really like it for.
Right.
And the other nice thing is that I find that traditional bass patches work really nicely as lead sounds, just a couple of octaves high. Okay. So you can just tweak the bass sounds, and you've got a really nice saw lead or something like that.
Yeah.
similarly using things not in the conventional way. This is one of my other go-to bits of gear. This is an updated version of the MPC. It's the Renaissance. Now that's the one of the first bits of MPC gear that's primarily a controller. So it requires some work done, it requires to be used in conjunction with a laptop or something like that.
Tell us a little bit about your sort of what you do for sampling and.
Well, most people would use an MPC as a sampler, or a sequencer. I use it far more as a MIDI sequencer than I do for creating samples. So I'll do beat production on an MPC. I've over the years I've had the 2000, the 2000 XL, and the 2500. This is probably the newest addition to the studio, and it's only been here for a few weeks. So I use an MPC for beat production and live MIDI programming.
You're right. Okay.
So whereas most people would use it as things like sampling, to chop up samples, send it to the chop shop, as they say.
Yeah, right.
But I prefer to use it as a MIDI looper. Now the concept with all this is that you can plug everything in together and it all talks to each other, and you can produce tracks. I've done a lot of live MPC programming, whereas most of the time people do all that in the studio and then take it to almost like as a pre-packaged thing to their gigs and press the play button and it's all there for you. Whereas I'm kind of take on the jazz philosophy where it's to a degree spontaneous and it's produced live and it's improvised and all that kind of thing. So probably as a bit of a tip to the head of producers like Mark de Clivelo, who's like the groundbreaker in that genre. Yeah.
So do you quantize much as you?
Yes, my trade secret is
not anymore.
Not anymore. No, mind you, I'm sure there's most people do it.
Right.
My my quantizing is 16th notes and 60% swing on the beats only. The keys, because I'm much more comfortable as a keys player than I am as a beat producer. The keys are not quantized, so you get this nice interplay between the more rigid beats and percussion and the kind of dirtier, more relaxed keys.
Oh, you heard it here, the TW secret sauce. We're going to bottle it up and ship it out.
What is it?
I like that. Hey, so any other key features? I mean, what caught my eye is the vintage mode.
Again, this is just landed on my lap in the last week or two. So it's going to be the summer project. The beauty about these is that you can keep a lot of the software in-house. So if we bounce this guy here up, you'll see you've got the ability to drag and drop things like your samples straight in.
That's awesome.
When I did some played some samples for a band a few months ago, I had to painstakingly chop everything up in I think it was Logic Pro or whatever you want to chop it up, and then drag it into the MPC, and then it made me realise how old or slow function the MPC is when you got to label every individual pad and go through and categorise it in there. Whereas this is so simple to do, just drag and drop, and you got your samples there straight away.
That's cool. So we'll be hearing some new production tricks from you on that as you master it. Blast from the past.
Yeah,
73.
The Rhodes. Nice. These are pretty much the go-tos for most pianists would have this in their sort of box of tricks at some point.
Yep. But you have the authentic real one.
This one is one of the latter ones. I've had a few over the years. This one is what they call a suitcase. So it's got underneath you've got two big stereo speakers facing towards us and then two big facing out. I don't think I've ever gone above sort of 40% on your volume
for a Rhodes because they're so loud. I've done outdoor gigs, like staged outdoor gigs where I don't think they've even mic'd up the Rhodes because it's almost louder than the PA systems.
Okay.
If you know anything about electromechanical instruments, if you were to open her up, inside isn't a series of microchips. It's all moving instruments. So a Fender Rhodes, the sound is produced by striking a hammer, much like on a piano, but instead of striking a string, it strikes a tine, which is electromagnetic. So it's very much the same as it's sort of like half a guitar. And half a piano.
Can we turn this beauty on?
Yeah, bottom left, just above the power cord.
Right.
So you've got you can hear she doesn't hold back.
It's a beast wanting to be unleashed.
Yeah, I mean
that's about as warm and as natural as you can.
And again, when I've done studio sessions, when I've taken these in, you, as a piano player or as an instrumentalist, you don't need to work very hard.
Yeah.
You can sit back and just play a couple of notes and it just sounds like gold on the recording.
That's amazing. What a gem. You've got some other keyboards here, but let's talk about your Tannoy reveals.
Yep. These are very kindly gifted to the studio from a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a huge amount about monitors, but my philosophy with monitors is that when you're in the studio, you don't want them to sound too different to the actual recording. You want them to be what I call honest.
Yep.
But if they sound too good, let me put it the other way. If they sound just normative, honest sound, it makes you work harder.
Yeah.
In the mix, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I've done sessions here and they sound, you work harder to get the sound sounding right, and then you might take it to somebody's home entertainment system, which is fantastic, and you put it on and all of a sudden it sounds amazing, or to a lesser degree on a really nice pair of cans. But I did have a sub here until just recently, and again, it sounded better in the studio with a sub, but it sounded more honest without the sub.
Yeah, so took the sub away.
Yeah, get just a good, what I call honest pair of
that's it.
of monitors. Again, monitors are just that, they're to monitor the sound that you're hearing.
Yeah.
They are not going to make your sound, your recording sound better.
No,
because they're going to be sent out and listened to
exactly
other instruments.
And it's a reference tool, and you don't want to colour it too much because then it can translate well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but the stands are interesting. I've never seen anything.
Those are very kindly gifted. The Caps told me to say, can Capisi lend me those? So they're
such a nice guy.
Actually, on that point, he reminded me that you want to have your studio monitors sitting at ear height.
Yeah.
Previously, my ones were a little bit lower, but you can imagine if you're sitting on a conventional sized office chair, they are hitting you at the ears. I've seen people have them like on much smaller studios, put them on the desktop, and you can hear it. But if you want to maximise your studio time and get the most honest sound, have them.
I always find you have the tweeters sort of at ear level.
Yep.
And as you say, the triangle. Sort of
exactly. Yep.
You're sitting here. This is the sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is an ideal placement for it.
And also gauge your room. I've I'll mix to what I'm hearing right here, but walk to the other end of the room, because sometimes if you've got clients in the room or the artist or something like that, go and sit at the other end and have a listen to what it sounds like there, because we forget sometimes that sound matures or changes as it goes, as it moves, as we're talking about. Sound is just vibrations.
Right. Like waves of the ocean, really.
Looking over here.
This catches my eye. The Korg.
The SV1. That is that's a real workhorse. That one. The SV1 is is made to emulate your what I call the old school sounds. So your
Yep.
Rhodes, your Wurlitzers, your clavs, your grand pianos. It's specifically a piano playing or keyboard to emulate the keyboard instruments. It doesn't have all your synthesizer and all that kind of good stuff.
No.
It's the other main keyboard that kind of rivals it is the Nord range, the Nord Electros and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I've got one of those as well, and they actually complement each other really nicely.
Mm-hmm.
This one here is more for what I call piano players, traditional piano players who really enjoy a nice weighted keyboard.
So it is weighted. That's excellent.
It does the Rhodes and the Wurlitzers sounds really well.
Nice.
Whereas the Nord Electro does your clavs and your organs better. And it's got much better support. Korg has really good constant update, so you can update your sounds through just a simple USB download as well.
Nice tube on it as well.
And it is the light in there isn't actually the tube. It's a well positioned little bulb behind it.
LED.
But but it looks good. Exactly.
If it looks good, it plays good.
It gives you a little bit of confidence.
Yep.
Exactly. And the other nice thing about this one is it has got much better inbuilt effects than my Nord. So most of the time, just like guitarists, we like a little bit of something on the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Be it a little bit of my go-tos is a bit of delay or a bit of reverb.
Yep.
But these have got your things like your amp modulators. You've got a couple of pre-effects. A simple 3-band EQ, and then your modulation effects, so your phases, your choruses, flanges, and
that's awesome.
A bit of nice reverb and delay over there as well.
It's all very nicely laid out as well.
It's well laid out. It's if you want to program a sound, so you've found all your effects and your EQs and all that kind of thing. It's just like your car stereo. You just press the button and hold it down, and it
saves the preset.
No flashy screens or anything like that.
Like
nothing like that. Just very hands-on, and you can feel like as you move, particularly these ones, they have got the old crunch. Something that you can feel like you're sinking your teeth into.
Made for musicians, not programmers.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it.
This micro Korg is.
Got one of these.
Yes, they're as you'll know, they are. I actually bought it as a bit of a novelty item, but then I realised how much I like it.
They're really powerful.
They've actually got the same synthesizer engine as your MS 2000, but in a much smaller compact size. You don't have. You'll notice if we compare the two instruments, this doesn't have all the flashy knobs.
Additional knobs. Yep.
You can.
You can get into it.
Oh yeah, you can do it if you
on the
want
additional
to.
menus.
But to be honest, the presets on here are so good.
Yeah.
I've barely gone past your hip hop and your vintage, so you got all your classic, your 90s sounds.
My favourite thing about this is the filters.
Yep, quite powerful filters, and
look as it screams,
they've just got the sounds right, and you don't really need to do much more to them. You can do, if you really want to. You've got things like your microphone, vocoder there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I bought it a bit of shits and giggles, and it had batteries, so you can like, if I want to go to a jam session, you can throw it on your back and you can take you can Vesper in.
I don't know how much you got this one for, but I got mine on Trade Me for $200.
Mm-hmm.
Because
my story was very similar to that.
Really?
Yep.
I had an arty student. He was gonna set this on fire as part of a film project. I'm glad he didn't. But yeah, mine has got a different colour sort of.
Oh, I know. There's been a couple of additions on that, but on the point of destroying instruments, this just frustrates me. And I know that there's maybe long time ago there was some kind of artistic merit in that, but it's like. If somebody gave you a Maserati or you had a beautiful Italian sports car, you wouldn't smash it in. That's criminal, eh?
Yep, it's definitely a crime in my opinion.
This is.
You got to treat them like.
These are our tools of our trade. This is our medium means of artistic expression.
And I think, I mean, like as an artist as well, you know, there is a certain artistry when someone designs something like this. And
that some of them are a piece of art.
It's there for a limited time.
Absolutely. Yep.
And then,
yep.
You know,
it's frustratingly wasteful, if you ask me.
Yeah, definitely. But really cool.
These are great. This is kind of over the last few years quite new on the marketplace. It's called a Machina. It's kind of like it rivaled some of the original MPCs. So you can see the layout's very simple. It is a controller pad. It needs a laptop or computer to run it. It is very similar to the MPC that we saw there before, but you basically. I suppose a controller unit for MPCs.
Yeah, I've got one. I've got the Mark II, so I know all about it, and it's awesome. It's so intuitive.
Yeah,
you just for writing and everything,
and it's quick.
That's what I find is just a very quick way to write.
And I think this is one of the earlier ones. You probably got the.
I've got the Mark II version.
Yep.
Was this the
Dean
design?
Yes, this is actually my little. It's literally just there's
you can customize the colours.
Jesse Dean's, he's a LA, as we were talking about, artist.
Yeah.
He specialises in producing really nice exteriors for a lot of drum DJ equipment.
Yeah.
So
it's a custom skin.
We'll be sure to put his link on the video, but he has. Done some amazing things where he's made wooden covers for mixing units. He's done some awesome designs for the Technics 1200s, and this one caught my eye because of the cream color it references the original series of the MPC 3000s and all that kind of thing, which is some of my sort of more revered gear. So it's something a little bit more different than just a standard black.
Cool.
Unit. And the last thing which might be interesting, looks like the battery's about to give us up on us, is
yes, the mini KP.
Because you had a Chaos Pad.
I started KP1.
KP1, yeah.
I did do the mini ones as well, but I'm now up to KP3 Plus.
Oh, okay, yep.
But they've released the quads as well, which is interesting.
There's been a couple of new things. This one is really nice.
Tell us about this.
It's basically just a very slimline version of the unit that you've got. You've got a X and Y axis, and this controls your effects units for up to I think 99%.
Is it plugged in?
This one here is So we'll put it on a piano.
Now,
and
the thing I like about this is basically 99 different effects, and they retail for about 100. So you're basically $1 per preset.
Absolutely. And if you see here, we've got some
nice
a simple
reverb
delay. And if we can
this is what Chaos Pads are known for. Those little.
Yeah. They've got depending on what instrument you are, preset you are, you can do the DJ's filter sweeps, and I mean you know them better than most. But it is nice to have a simple little unit next to your keyboard that you can just alter
space,
for live stuff. To give it a sense of space. You know.
Awesome. All plugged into a Ashton MXLA.
Again, nothing flash. Just a simple.
What does it?
If I'm gonna do some recording, I'll literally line it straight into the 002 or the DigiDesign. So. Again, nothing flash, but this space here is multi-purpose, so you want to be able to what I don't like having to do is if I've got an idea and I want to do some writing or some production, that I've got to open up a new project file and record everything through a mixing desk, just get a line thing. So it's nice to be able to play something, go over and play something on the piano for a couple of minutes and write something quite simple, rather than booting up a whole new recording session.
That's cool. We'll talk about the room a little bit later as well, because there was a bit of a sort of journey with this room as well. But I like sort of the eye candy of the studio as well. The posters, it's very vintage. You a big fan of Vespers? Or?
I'm a Vespa driver through and through. Yeah. But this wall was pre-existing when I started building the space, and I had thought about covering over or putting plastering it or something like that. But I quite like in this space the combination of the industrial concrete blocks meets some of the more sort of warmer aspects with the curtains of this of the room. I think it's quite important to have, because it is a multi-purpose room.
I mean, what caught my eye is these sort of photos here.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a storyboard about how this room came to be.
How far back is this? Are these photos?
It was only just over a year and a half old.
Yeah.
So this whole room was created in about 3 or 4 weeks, just with some simple prefab walls, some fixtures I found on the side of the road, and a bit of carpet, and a whole lot of TLC and work.
There is a lot of TLC in this room, and it really shows.
It's come up all right. It's well used, this room. I teach out of it 6 days a week, so it's not short of any attention down here, and it's been designed in a way that it is multi-purpose, so you can be teaching all morning and then do a session all afternoon and all evening.
That's cool. And a very healthy collection of CDs and inspiration.
Yeah. When we had things called CDs, eh?
Oh yes, I still have plenty of CDs. I think they're great. Okay, well, you do have a mic set up over there.
Yes. Again, nothing groundbreaking. I think that was the first mic I had in here. It looks a whole lot better than it sounds, to be honest. But I find the better that the mics are, the quality-wise, the more you have to work to get the sound, or the harder they are to work. Yep. That is very easy to use, and as a result, it's probably not the best sound. This guy over here, the AKG, is much better quality sound, and also multi-purpose. So we've recorded vocals and then mic'd guitar caps and that kind of thing.
I do like my AKGs. So.
This one here, I'll pull it out for you.
Nice one.
C3000B, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool. So one pattern, high pass filter.
Nothing. I mean, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's nice and tidy. One of my latest acquisitions was I've got a number of Sennheiser monitors, but I am just trialing out a new wireless pair of Philips headphones, which normatively in a studio situation isn't necessary, but it does help if you want to move your vocal mic around the room, or if you're tracking a lot of different instruments in one session, because you can give them the and they can go anywhere they want.
In the room.
I've got a four channel headphone mixer, but you're losing a little bit of quality because it's not as good as a nice pair of Sennheisers, as I'm sure, but it does make life a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And again, it's the output of the quality that we want. Exactly. Most musicians aren't going to stress too much about their headphone mix.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
For the most part.
Hey, there's some stuff here that's we should probably plug in. Oh, it is plugged in.
Close.
Nice.
No. Again, electromechanical instruments, they make sound like a Rhodes does, but without a PA.
That sounds awesome, man. Or let's say electronic piano.
Yeah. They're probably not as well known as Rhodes, but
That's beautiful.
Cool.
So William.
Are we recording, are we?
Yes, we are. No, that's great. I mean, you play that like a master.
This is kind of this has been the thing I've been looking for the last 15 years. I played on one when I was a kid, and Wurlitzer is very similar to a Rhodes. If you open up the lid, it's all moving parts. The only difference is that the sound is produced by a series of reeds rather than tines. But in contrast to probably the better known Fender Rhodes. It does have a slightly thinner, almost more poppy version.
That sounds to me like all the records I've listened to for the last.
They're a little bit poppier in their sound. Obviously, physically they're smaller, so I'm more inclined to take it out if there's a situation requires. But they're just got a little bit more grit to them, and that's why I prefer a Wurlitzer sound over Rhodes.
I love this. I mean, 2 knobs, volume and a bit of vibrato.
It's kind of like they got it right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And what are we doing? Like, you dial up any of your soft synths of and there's
a gazillion knobs.
There's everything going on. It's like, really? No.
It's almost like it's just telling you to play.
It's forcing you to concentrate on playing rather than twisting knobs.
Yeah,
and
so what era is this from?
This would have been early 70s, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the original ones are not of this model, but they actually date back down to the 50s. And if I'm not mistaken, Wurlitzer as a brand name is previously known for their jukeboxes and their old theatre style organs. So this was obviously like a consumer home product version of the better known Wurlitzer organs, which were these amazing, massive, about the size of a car.
Yeah.
And they kind of spiraled around you, if I remember correctly.
Cool.
And of course, this guy here, a real workhorse, MPC 2500.
Yep. Classic name, really.
They're the hardware version.
These have all the analog inputs and jacks ins and outs, as opposed to...
This one has got digital, standard stereo in and digital in, but it's also got 8 out.
Yeah.
So if you're
nice, so you can actually separate it.
Yep. If you're really specific for recording, you can isolate you can isolate your kick, your snare, your hat, your percussion, your sample into various the channel strips, and then you have much more control.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever bothered, but it is there if you do want it. And a couple of nice things that the MPCs this generation is inbuilt hard drive, compact flash drive here, and USB thing in the back, so you can just drag and drop.
Cool.
Which makes it a little bit easier, because the generation before that, you either had to go back to zip drives, I should say, or floppy disks, and even before that, you'd have to sample in each individual sound by recording it in.
So from
really
what I recall, you program and loop on the go, don't you? With this?
Yeah. So that's where I sort of use MPC slightly differently than most. I MIDI this into all my other keyboard instruments. They all talk to each other, and then you're basically creating a beat from scratch. Your beats, your progressions, your bass sounds, everything's performed live. Much in the way that that kind of jazz philosophy of improvising and making spontaneous music.
That's what it's all about. This isn't plugged in, but you were telling me earlier.
That is one of the best bits of kit I've ever bought. That's your Nord Electro 2. It's kind of the travel version of the SV1 that we saw a bit earlier. I've toured a lot with it, and it's been an absolute workhorse for me. Really great ability to change your organ sounds, so all your drawbars. You've got great clav sounds, Wurlitzer sounds, very clean electric piano sounds, but an absolute dropkick when it comes to piano sounds. So, awesome. As I was saying before, the SV1 and the Nord Electro can actually complement each other really nicely.
Cool. Some nice pieces on your studio.
That's us.
Very good. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us in this lovely music studio tour.
Thanks for coming around, guys.
Timothy William, thank you.
My pleasure.
Good sir, good musician. Check him out, timothywilliam.co.nz, and you can check out all his projects, what he's doing, and
and upcoming shows and record release parties and all that kind of stuff.
Certainly, recommend to do that. So check him out, Timothy William. It's been a blessing to have us here.
More pleasure. Lovely just having a chat.
Keep writing music and just enjoy it.
Cool.
All right, thanks.